The knock came at 7:42 on Christmas Eve, right when my frozen dinner gave up in the microwave with a sad little beep. I remember the exact time because I was standing in my kitchen in sweatpants, holding a fork like it was a survival tool, staring at a turkey and gravy tray that looked like it had been assembled by someone who hated both turkey and gravy. Outside my apartment window, Chicago was wrapped in snow and gold lights. Families moved in warm rectangles across the building opposite mine. Kids pressed noses to glass. Someone downstairs was playing Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas on repeat, which felt less like a song and more like a personal attack. Then came the second knock. Firm, impatient, familiar. I opened the door and there stood my neighbor from across the hall, Amelia Hart, wearing a dark green wool coat, red lipstick, and an expression that suggested she had already won an argument I hadn't agreed to join. "Get your coat," she said. "You're coming." I blinked at her. Amelia was 29, a music teacher with a laugh that carried through walls and a habit of watering the half-dead fern by the elevator like it was a rescue mission. I was Jonah Mercer, 30 years old, a freelance web designer whose greatest achievement that month was convincing a plumbing company that their website did not need background music. We had lived across from each other for 11 months. We were friendly, not close. Friendly meant elevator conversations, borrowed coffee filters, one unfortunate morning when she saw me drop an entire bag of groceries and said, "Strong performance," while helping me chase oranges down the hallway. Friendly meant I knew she hummed when she was tired. Friendly meant she knew I worked too late and ordered Thai food every Thursday. Friendly did not mean she got to appear at my door on Christmas Eve looking like every holiday movie I pretended not to watch, and command me into the night. "Coming where?" I asked. "Christmas dinner." I looked past her into the hallway as if there might be a camera crew. "With who?" "My family." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain had slipped on ice. "Amelia, I appreciate the thought, but no." Her eyes flicked over my shoulder to the microwave dinner on the counter, then to the single beer beside it, then to the tiny tabletop Christmas tree I had bought at a drugstore and decorated with paper clips because I'd forgotten ornaments. Her face softened, but only for half a second, then she pointed at me. "Do not make that wounded raccoon face at me." "I don't have a wounded raccoon face." "You absolutely do. It's one of your main faces." "I have main faces? You have three. Work frown, elevator polite, and emotionally abandoned raccoon." I should have shut the door. Instead, I smiled. That was the problem with Amelia. She could call you pathetic and somehow make it feel like she had noticed you. "I'm fine," I said. "No one eating microwave turkey alone on Christmas Eve is fine. That turkey has been through enough. Don't insult it." She stepped closer, close enough that cold air came in around her and brought the scent of snow and her perfume with it. Something warm. Vanilla, maybe. A little citrus. The kind of scent that made you suddenly aware you hadn't shaved. "Jonah," she said, and my name sounded different when she wasn't tossing it across the hall over grocery bags. "I saw your light on. I heard the microwave, and Mrs. Alvarez told me you turned down her tamales." Mrs. Alvarez runs an intelligence agency disguised as Apartment 3B. She worries. She also asked if I was single because I had sad elbows. Amelia's mouth twitched. "You do lean like a divorced philosophy professor." "I've never been divorced, and my elbows are private." She laughed then, and it did something embarrassing to my chest. That laugh was one of the reasons I avoided getting too comfortable around her. Amelia was bright in a way that didn't demand attention. She just changed the temperature of whatever room she entered. I had noticed that months ago when she'd sat on the hallway floor in fuzzy socks, fixing a broken music stand for one of her students, muttering, "You will not defeat me, collapsible demon." I had wanted to sit beside her then. I hadn't. That was my pattern. Notice something good. Want it, assume it was not. For me. Christmas had a way of making that pattern louder. "My family is loud," she warned. "My aunt asks inappropriate questions. My cousin brings store-bought pie and lies about it. My father will try to feed you enough ham to damage your future." Sounds dangerous? It is. That's why I'm recruiting backup. I crossed my arms. "So, this is not charity?" Her eyes narrowed. If you call it charity, I'm going to take your microwave dinner and throw it into the snow. You wouldn't. I teach fourth graders how to play recorders. There is very little I fear. That got me again. A real laugh this time. For a moment we just stood there in the doorway, the hallway dim behind her, my sad little apartment behind me. She looked at my face like she was trying to read fine print. Then she said, quieter, "You don't have to pretend you like being alone just because you're good at it." That landed harder than I wanted it to. I looked away first. My mother used to call me every Christmas Eve at exactly 8. Even after I moved out, even after Dad left, even during the years we had nothing new to say. She died 2 Decembers ago, and since then, Christmas Eve had become a room I entered with the lights off. My sister lived in Oregon with her husband and twins. We texted. We said we'd visit. We didn't. There hadn't been a fight exactly, just distance, which is sometimes worse because no one knows where to aim the apology. "I'm not good company tonight," I said. Amelia's answer came fast. "Perfect, neither am I." That surprised me. She glanced down the hall, then back at me, and the bravado slipped. "Just a crack. My mother invited my ex." "Oh." Technically, she says she invited his mother, who happens to bring him everywhere like a purse dog. That's festive. Last year, he proposed in front of everyone after we'd already broken up. I stared at her. He what? He thought the audience would help? Did it? I said no while holding a serving spoon. My aunt still calls it the mashed potato incident. I leaned against the doorframe. "I'm starting to understand why you need backup." "I don't need backup," she said quickly. "I need a witness. There's a difference." "Is there?" "A witness doesn't look as desperate." Her cheeks colored the second she said it. I should have teased her. That was the easy route. Instead, I found myself saying, "You don't look desperate." Her eyes lifted to mine. The hallway went quiet in that strange way buildings do during storms, like every apartment was holding its breath. "You look," I said, then stopped because the rest of the sentence was about to become honest. Amelia tilted her head. "I look what?" "Beautiful. Too brave. Like someone I'd regret not knowing better." "Cold," I said. Her smile was small, but it knew I'd lied. "Then get your coat." I looked back at my apartment, the microwave tray, the laptop still open on the table, the little drugstore tree with its paperclip ornaments shining like bad ideas. Then I looked at Amelia. She was standing with one hand tucked into her coat pocket and the other gripping a red scarf, but there was something nervous under all that command. Something that made me understand this was not just her saving me from loneliness. Maybe she was asking me not to let her walk into that room alone. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, someone asking for me felt good. "Give me 2 minutes," I said. Her face changed before she could stop it. Relief, quick and bright. "Make it 1, she said. "My father starts carving ham like a man defusing a bomb if we're late." I shut the door, changed faster than any man has ever changed without being chased, and caught my reflection in the mirror. Dark sweater, jeans, hair mostly behaving. Face less raccoon than usual. When I stepped back into the hall, Amelia looked me over. "Not bad, Mercer." "Not bad? I'm managing your expectations. You dragged me from a gourmet frozen dinner for not bad?" She reached up without asking and adjusted the collar of my coat. Her fingers brushed the side of my neck, cold from outside, and my entire body noticed. So did she. Her hand paused for one heartbeat too long. Then she pulled away and cleared her throat. "There," she said. "Now you look like a man who owns plates." "I own plates." 2 plates is not plates. It's a negotiation. We walked to the elevator side by side, close but not touching. The building smelled like cinnamon, wet wool, and somebody burning rolls. Downstairs, the lobby tree blinked in uneven colors. As we stepped outside, snow fell in soft, careless flakes. Amelia slipped once on the sidewalk, and I caught her by the elbow. She didn't pull away. Instead, she looked at my hand on her arm, then up at me. "Good reflexes," she said. "Emotionally abandoned raccoons are quick." That laugh again. A cab rolled up, yellow light glowing through the snow. I opened the door for her and she slid in first. I followed, bringing the cold with me, our knees almost touching in the cramped back seat. She gave the driver an address on the north side, then turned toward me with a little too much innocence. Jonah? I already knew from her tone that trouble had entered the vehicle. Yes? There's one tiny thing I should mention before we get there. I stared at her. Amelia. It's not a big deal. That is never true. She bit her lip, and somehow that was worse than any warning. My family may think, she said carefully, that you're my boyfriend. My family may think you're my boyfriend. The cab hit a pothole at that exact moment, which was merciful because it disguised the sound I made. I turned slowly. May think? Amelia folded her hands in her lap like a defendant attempting innocence. In the broad sense. There's a broad sense of boyfriend? Yes. Is that like a weather advisory? More like a misunderstanding with seasonal consequences. I stared at her. Snow streaked the cab window behind her, blurring the city lights into soft gold. She looked composed, but one knee bounced under her green coat. You told your family you had a boyfriend, I said. I implied I was seeing someone. Amelia. Fine, I said I was bringing someone. That someone being me? Well, I didn't name you. That makes me feel much less fictional. She winced. I panicked. I leaned back against the seat. Our knees touched for half a second and she shifted, then didn't shift far enough to stop it happening again. When? I asked. At lunch with my mother last week. She started doing that thing where she says, I just want you to be happy. But what she means is, I have printed wedding venues in my purse. Then she mentioned Nolan might stop by tonight, and I said I was bringing someone. Nolan is mashed potato incident? The very one. I looked out at the passing storefront strung with lights. I should have been annoyed. I was annoyed, technically. Somewhere in the upper offices of my brain, a clerk was stamping paperwork that said, Jonah Mercer objects to being conscripted into romantic fraud. Unfortunately, the rest of me was still stuck on Amelia telling people she was bringing someone and then choosing me. You could have asked, I said. Her face softened. I know. Before the cab. I know. Before kidnapping me from my turkey. That turkey was not long for this world. Amelia. She looked down at her gloves. I didn't plan it. I really didn't. I was going to go alone, and then I saw you through the peephole. You spy on me through the peephole? You were standing in the hall yesterday holding a roll of wrapping paper and looking betrayed. It unrolled aggressively. I thought, she swallowed, I thought maybe we could both use a less lonely version of tonight. That took the irritation out of me so neatly it was almost unfair. The cab's heater rattled. Her perfume was warmer in the small space, and her shoulder was inches from mine. I watched her worrying the edge of her scarf. So, what exactly is my role? I asked. Devoted boyfriend? Mysterious boyfriend? Boyfriend with a tragic allergy to questions? Her mouth twitched. Neighbor boyfriend. That sounds illegal. It sounds convenient. How long have we been dating? 3 months? Ambitious. We've only had one real conversation longer than elevator distance. Not true. The grocery oranges. That was a crisis response. You learned a lot about a person when you're both on your knees under the mailboxes. The driver glanced at us in the mirror. I cleared my throat. Amelia went pink. Okay, I said, enjoying that more than I should have. 3 months. How did I ask you out? She turned toward me. You didn't. I didn't? I asked you. Bold. I'm a modern woman. Where did we go? She thought for a second. That little diner on Ashland. The one with the blue booths. I knew it. I'd seen her there once through the window, grating sheet music while eating fries. You had pancakes for dinner, I said. Her eyes widened. How did you know that? I saw you there in October. You saw me? I was picking up coffee next door. And you didn't come in? I shrugged. You looked busy. I was eating pancakes alone at 8:30 on a Tuesday. That's not busy. That's a cry for syrup. I laughed, but she kept looking at me. Something shifted. Just a quiet tilt inside the cab. You should have come in, she said. It wasn't flirtation exactly. It was softer, an offered thread. I wanted to, I admitted. Her lips parted a little. The city slid by outside, all snow and headlights. I had the ridiculous sensation that if the cab stopped too suddenly, I might say something that would make it impossible to return to being neighbors who borrowed coffee filters. So, our first date was pancakes, she said, voice lower. Apparently. Did it go well? Very. You stole fries off my plate. I would never. You absolutely would. I might, if I liked you. I looked at her then, really looked. And do you? I asked. The question left my mouth dressed as a joke, but it arrived between us as something else. Amelia held my gaze. The bouncing of her knees stopped. I think, she said slowly, I like you more than is practical for someone who lives across the hall. My heart did one hard, stupid thing. I tried to answer, but the cab pulled to the curb and the driver announced, Here. The moment snapped, but not completely. It stayed around us as I paid, as we stepped into the falling snow, as Amelia stood on the sidewalk in front of a brick too flat, glowing with Christmas lights. Voices spilled from inside, laughter, music, the warm chaos of people who belong to one another. Amelia took a breath. Rules, she said briskly, though her cheeks were still flushed. Of fake dating? Of surviving my family. 1. Don't eat anything my cousin Petra calls experimental. 2. If my aunt asks about children, cough dramatically. 3. If Nolan says anything about old times, you may redirect with sports. I know nothing about sports. Perfect, neither does he. And rule 4? She looked at the house, then at me. The brave mask flickered again. Don't let me look like I care that he's here. There it was. Not fear, not heartbreak maybe, but the exhaustion of having to prove you were fine to people who wanted a performance. I stepped closer. You don't have to prove anything to him. I know. You don't. I know, she repeated, but this time her voice thinned. Without thinking too hard, I offered my hand. She looked at it. For authenticity, I said. Her smile came back slowly. Right. Method acting. Her gloved fingers slid into mine. It was supposed to be practical, a prop, a lie with body heat. It didn't feel like a lie. Her hand fit mine with a startling ease, and when her thumb moved once against my knuckle, I forgot the cold entirely. The front door flew open before we reached it. A woman with silver-streaked dark hair and Amelia's same sharp eyes stood framed in yellow light. You're late, she said. Then she saw our joined hands, her face transformed. Oh, she breathed. You brought him. Amelia squeezed my hand hard enough to threaten circulation. Mom, she said, this is Jonah. Jonah, her mother said, like she had been waiting years to try the name. I'm Marisol. Come in before you freeze. Inside, the house smelled like ham, cinnamon, pine, and about 12 competing side dishes. Coats piled on the banister. A golden retriever wearing antlers trotted up, sneezed on my shoe, and accepted me as family. Amelia's father appeared from the dining room holding a carving knife and wearing an apron that said, Silent Night? Good luck. You must be the young man, he said. I've been accused of that, I replied. He stared at me for one terrifying second. Then he laughed so loudly the dog barked. I like him, he announced. I'm Raphael. Eat something. I just walked in. Exactly, you're vulnerable. Amelia leaned close to my ear. Told you. Her breath brushed my skin. I turned my head, and for 1 second our faces were too close for people pretending. Her smile wavered, but she didn't move away. From the living room, someone called, Is that the boyfriend? Another voice gasped, Let me see. Amelia closed her eyes. Too late to run? I bent slightly toward her. I'm committed to the role. Are you? There was a challenge in it, so I lifted our joined hands and kissed the back of her glove. It was small, ridiculous maybe, but the room went quiet for a beat, and Amelia looked at me as if I'd done something far more dangerous. Completely, I said. Her eyes warmed. Then a tall blonde man stepped out of the living room with a wine glass in his hand and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Amelia, he said, Merry Christmas. Her fingers tightened around mine. I didn't look at him first. I looked at her. And when she looked back, I felt her choose not to let go. Nolan looked exactly like the kind of man who used the word networking at funerals. Tall, polished, expensive sweater, smile calibrated to make mothers trust him and bartenders hate him. He glanced at our joined hands, then at me, then back to Amelia. "Merry Christmas," Amelia said. Her voice was steady. Only her hand betrayed her. Nolan took one step closer. "I didn't realize you were bringing company." "Funny," she said. "I told my mother." "Yes, but your mother is optimistic." I felt Amelia inhale. I could have stepped in. Said something sharp. Played the boyfriend like a shield. Instead, I squeezed her hand once. Her chin lifted. "Nolan, this is Jonah," she said. "My boyfriend." The word landed in my chest like it had weight. I offered my free hand. "Good to meet you." He shook it. Firm, competitive, predictable. "You too," he said. "How did you two meet?" "Across the hall," Amelia said. Nolan's smile sharpened. "Convenient." "Very," I said. "I can be emotionally unavailable without a commute." Amelia made a sound that was almost a cough and definitely a laugh. Her fingers relaxed in mine. Raphael boomed from behind us. "Enough doorway politics. Food." That was how I was swept into Amelia's family Christmas. By a carving knife, a sneezing dog, and 3 women asking me questions before I'd taken off my boots. Her Aunt Lucia wanted to know my birth sign. Her cousin Petra wanted to know if I ate gluten because she'd made a reinterpretation of stuffing. A teenage nephew named Mateo asked if I had games on my phone. Marisol kept touching Amelia's shoulder like she was confirming her daughter was actually there and actually smiling. Through it all, Amelia stayed near me, not glued to my side. She wasn't fragile. She moved around the kitchen helping with plates, scolding her father for carving too much ham, stealing an olive from a tray. But every few minutes her eyes found mine, and each time there was a question there. "Still okay?" Each time, I answered in whatever language was available. A raised eyebrow. A stolen piece of ham. Once when Petra tried to explain her savory cranberry foam, I mouthed, "Save me." Amelia mouthed back, "You're the boyfriend." I mouthed, "You owe me." Her smile turned wicked. Later. That single silent word did more damage to me than Nolan's entire presence. Dinner was loud, warm, and completely unmanageable. I sat between Amelia and Aunt Lucia, who asked what my intentions were before the salad. "My intentions?" I repeated. "With Amelia." Amelia choked on her water. "Taya." "What? I'm old. I don't have time for vague men." I looked at Amelia. Her cheeks were pink, but her eyes were bright with warning and amusement. "My intentions," I said carefully, "are to keep up with her, if possible." The table reacted like I'd given a toast. Lucia slapped my arm. "Good answer." Amelia leaned closer under the cover of everyone laughing. "That was disturbingly smooth," she whispered. "I contain multitudes." "You contain panic." "Also ham." Her knee bumped mine under the table and stayed there. It was nothing. It was everything. Across from us, Nolan watched. He had been quiet during dinner, which somehow made him louder. Finally, during dessert, he set down his fork. "So, Jonah," he said, "what do you do?" "Web design." "Freelance?" "Yes." "Brave." "Unstable, but brave." The table quieted by degrees. Amelia's knee pressed harder against mine. I smiled. It has its moments. "Amelia always did admire creative types," Nolan said, "though stability matters eventually." There were a dozen ways to answer. Most of them involved making things worse. Amelia put her fork down. "I admire kindness," she said, "and humor, and people who don't confuse control with concern." Nolan's face changed. Barely, but enough. Marisol suddenly stood. "Who wants coffee?" Everyone wanted coffee with theatrical urgency. Under the table, Amelia's hand found mine. Not for the performance, no one could see. Her fingers slid between mine, warm now without gloves, and held on. My breath caught. She didn't look at me. She stared at her plate as if the pecan pie contained state secrets. I rubbed my thumb along the side of her hand once. Her shoulders eased. After dinner, the family scattered into noisy clusters. Raphael argued with Mateo over a card game. Petra's cranberry foam was quietly moved behind a plant. Nolan disappeared into the front room with his mother and a wounded expression. I found Amelia in the kitchen, sleeves pushed up, washing dishes alone. "Is this where you hide?" I asked. She glanced over. "Is it working?" "Badly. I found you immediately." "You have raccoon instincts." I picked up a towel and started drying. "You don't have to do that," she said. "I'm committed to my boyfriend duties." "Dishes are not boyfriend duties." "What are boyfriend duties?" She handed me a plate, eyes innocent. "Compliments, reaching high shelves, pretending my aunt's questions are normal." "I complimented your ham intake earlier." "You said it was strategic." "It was. You timed your roll consumption to avoid the stuffing foam." She laughed softly, then went quiet. Water ran. Music drifted from the other room. Snow tapped faintly at the kitchen window. "Thank you," she said. "For drying plates? For not making me feel stupid." I set the plate down. She kept her hands in the water, eyes lowered. "About Nolan, about lying, about all of it." "You didn't lie about everything." She looked up. "You did bring someone," I said. "That's a very generous technicality." "I'm a generous technicality kind of man." Her smile trembled, then faded. "He made me feel small by being reasonable. Does that make sense?" "He never yelled. Never did anything people could point to. He just corrected me, improved me, explained me to myself until I started believing I was difficult to love." Something hot and protective moved through me, but beneath it was something more tender. Anger on her behalf was easy. Wanting to be trusted with the soft part of that confession felt terrifying. "You're not difficult to love," I said. She went still. The words had come out too simply to call back. I dried my hands on the towel. "I mean, no." Amelia turned off the faucet. "Don't retreat." I looked at her. She stepped closer, damp hands curled around the edge of the counter. "You do that. You say something real, then you try to make it smaller." I swallowed. Occupational hazard of being emotionally abandoned wildlife. Jonah. The way she said my name took away the joke, so I gave her the truth. "My mom died 2 years ago," I said. "Christmas Eve was our thing. She'd call at 8, even if we had nothing to talk about. Since she's been gone, I've been pretending I prefer quiet because it's easier than admitting the quiet won." Amelia's face softened completely. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I nodded once. Tonight was the first Christmas Eve in a while that didn't feel like a locked room. She reached for me then, not dramatically, not because anyone was watching. Her wet fingers touched my wrist, cool and careful, and then slid into my hand. "I'm glad I knocked," she said. "So am I." We stood close enough that I could see the tiny gold flecks in her brown eyes, close enough that her breath caught when my gaze dropped to her mouth. "Amelia," I said quietly, "if we keep pretending, I'm going to get bad at knowing where pretending ends." Her fingers tightened. "What if I'm already bad at that?" she asked. The kitchen doorway erupted with Aunt Lucia's voice. "Mistletoe check!" Amelia jumped back like a teenager. I turned to find Lucia pointing upward with triumphant delight. Above the kitchen threshold hung a sprig of mistletoe tied with red ribbon. "That has been there all night," Amelia accused. "And you have been avoiding it all night," Lucia said. "Suspicious." From behind her, Petra and Matteo appeared, then Raphael, then Marisol, trying and failing to look innocent. Nolan stood at the back of the group, jaw tight. I looked at Amelia. The performance had returned, but now it rested on something real and fragile. "We don't have to," I said softly, for her alone. Her eyes searched mine. Then Amelia stepped toward me. "I know," she said. "That's why I want to." She rose on her toes and kissed me. It was supposed to be quick. A family-approved peck beneath Christmas greenery. It was not. Her mouth met mine warm and sure, one hand sliding to my coat sleeve. For a second I forgot the audience. The lie, the ex, the snow. The locked room of every Christmas before this one. I kissed her back carefully at first, then not carefully enough. Someone gasped. Someone else whooped. The dog barked like a witness. Amelia pulled away, cheeks flushed, eyes stunned and bright. I could still feel her smile against my mouth. Lucia whispered loudly, "Oh, that is not fake." The room went silent. Amelia looked at me, and this time, neither of us laughed. Lucia's words hung in the kitchen like a dropped ornament. "Oh, that is not fake." Amelia's hand was still on my sleeve. My mouth still knew the shape of hers. Around us, her family had gone quiet in the way only loud families can, with everyone pretending not to breathe while absolutely breathing. Nolan laughed first. It was a small sound, polite, poisoned. "Well," he said, "that was convincing." Amelia flinched. Not much. Just enough for me to feel it through her fingertips. I looked at her, not him. "You okay?" She nodded, but her eyes had gone guarded. Marisol cleared her throat. "Who wants more coffee?" "Subtle as a parade, Mom," Amelia said. That broke the spell. Raphael began ordering people back to the living room. Mateo complained that adults were weird. Petra whispered, "I knew it," to the dog. In the shuffle, Amelia slipped past me and out the back door. Cold air swept into the kitchen before the door clicked shut. I waited 1 second. 2, then I followed. The back porch overlooked a tiny yard buried in snow. Strands of colored lights looped along the railing, turning the flakes red, blue, green as they fell. Amelia stood with her arms wrapped around herself, breath clouding in front of her. She didn't turn when I stepped outside. "Forgot your coat," I said. "I needed air." "It's Chicago in December. This is not air. This is a threat." A laugh escaped her, thin but real. I took off my coat and draped it around her shoulders. She caught the lapels, and for a moment her fingers brushed mine. "Jonah." "I know, protection isn't romance." Her head turned. "What?" "Nothing. I mean, you looked cold." She studied me under the porch lights, snow catching in her dark hair. "I'm sorry," she said. "For kissing me?" "No." Her answer came so fast my pulse stumbled. Then she looked down. "For making it complicated." "It was complicated before the kiss." "Was it?" "Amelia, I almost walked into a diner in October because you were eating pancakes alone." Her eyes lifted. "And I have spent 11 months learning the sound of your laugh through a wall," I continued, because apparently the cold had murdered my caution. "I know when your students have concerts because you practice their songs under your breath by the elevator. I know you buy sunflowers when it rains. I know you pretend that fern by the elevator is communal property, but you're the only reason it's alive." Her expression changed with every sentence, softening into something almost painful. "I thought I was being subtle," she whispered. "You named it Fernanda. She has presence. She has 3 leaves. 3 committed leaves." I smiled, and she did too. Then the smile faded from both of us at the same time. Through the kitchen window, Nolan moved past in conversation with his mother. Amelia saw him and exhaled. "I hate that he can still make me feel watched," she said. I stepped beside her, close but not crowding. "Do you want to leave?" She was quiet. "Not because of him," I added. "Not running, just leaving if you're done." She looked at the snow-covered yard. "I don't want him to decide the shape of my night." "Then what do you want?" Her answer took a while. "I want to go back in there," she said, "eat my mother's flan, beat Mateo at cards, and not spend every minute measuring whether I look over him enough." "Good." "And after that?" She turned toward me. "I want you to walk me home." The words were simple. The look that came with them wasn't. "Not as backup?" I asked. "No." She stepped closer, my coat hanging around her shoulders. "As you." My chest tightened in the best and worst way. "I can do that. And maybe," she swallowed, then lifted her chin. "Maybe tomorrow, if you're not busy being emotionally abandoned wildlife, we could have pancakes?" I stared at her. "A real first date?" I asked. Her cheeks flushed. "If you want." The answer came out rougher than I meant it to. "I want." Snow fell between us. A car passed in the alley, tires hissing. Inside, her family laughed at something. Amelia looked at my mouth. "That sounded very certain," she said. I'm trying something new. Certainty? Not leaving the diner window this time. Her hand rose to my chest, resting over my sweater. I could feel the cold of her fingers and, beneath it, the tremble she was trying to hide. I'm scared, she admitted. Of pancakes? Of wanting something because it feels good, not because I can prove it's sensible. I covered her hand with mine. I'm scared of being invited somewhere warm and ruining it by assuming I don't belong. You belong tonight. With your family. With me. There it was. No audience, no mistletoe, no lie to perform. Just Amelia standing in the colored snowlight, choosing the words herself. I bent slowly, giving her all the time in the world to step back. She didn't. This kiss was quieter than the first. No gasps from relatives, no barking dog. Just her hand curling in my sweater and my palm at her cheek, her skin cold from the night and then warm under my touch. She kissed like she had been brave all day and finally found somewhere to set it down. When we parted, she kept her forehead near mine. Real? She asked. Real, I said. Her smile shook. Okay. We went back inside holding hands. This time, Amelia didn't squeeze like she needed rescue. She swung our joined hands once, lightly like a dare. Lucia saw us first and pressed both hands to her heart. Don't, Amelia warned. I said nothing. You inhaled romantically. I am allowed to breathe. Raphael shoved a plate toward me. Flan. If you break her heart, I take it back. Dad. What? It's excellent flan. I accepted the plate. Understood, sir. High stakes. Amelia leaned against my shoulder while reaching around me for a spoon. The contact was casual, easy, and it made me stupidly happy. Across the room, Nolan watched us for a while, then looked away. Not defeated, not villainous, just irrelevant. That was better. We played cards at the coffee table and Amelia turned ruthless. She beat Mateo twice, accused her father of cheating, and stole bites of flan from my plate even after claiming she was full. You have your own, I said. Yours tastes better. That is theft. That is romance. You have a broad sense of romance. I have a broad sense of boyfriend too, apparently. The word didn't sting with pretense now. It warmed. Later, while Marisol wrapped leftovers in enough foil to protect them from radiation, Nolan approached Amelia near the hall. I was close enough to hear, but far enough not to make myself the point. I didn't think you'd actually move on, he said. Amelia looked at him for a long second. I didn't either, she said. That was the problem. He glanced at me. With your neighbor? With Jonah. My name in her mouth was calm, certain. Nolan nodded once, pride losing a quiet battle with reality. Merry Christmas, Amelia. Merry Christmas. When he left, she came straight to me, not dramatically, not to prove anything. She simply slipped her arms around my waist and rested her cheek against my chest. I held her there in the hallway while her family pretended not to notice with the subtlety of fireworks. You okay? I murmured. I think I am. Only think. She tilted her face up. Ask me again after pancakes. Marisol sent us home with 3 containers of food, 2 slices of pie, and a warning that I was expected for New Year's if this continues. At the door, Raphael shook my hand and pulled me into a hug without waiting for permission. In the cab back, Amelia sat close enough that our thighs touched from hip to knee. She threaded her fingers through mine on the seat between us. For several blocks, neither of us spoke. Then she said, Do you regret coming? I looked at the snow sliding down the window, the leftovers stacked at my feet, the woman beside me who had knocked on my door and rearranged the night. No. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Me neither. By the time we reached our building, it was nearly midnight. The lobby lights buzzed softly. Fernanda the Fern drooped beside the elevator, festive in her 3-leaf resilience. We stopped outside our apartment doors, across the hall from each other. The distance suddenly felt enormous. Amelia still wore my coat. I should give this back, she said. You can keep it until tomorrow. For pancakes? For pancakes. She smiled, then glanced at her door. Jonah? Yeah? Her voice went quiet. I don't want to go in yet. My heart answered before my brain did. Then don't. Then don't. Amelia stood across from me in the quiet hallway, still wrapped in my coat, snow melting in her hair. For once, she had no quick comeback. Behind her, apartment 4A waited. Behind me, 4B waited. Two little boxes across from each other, both dark, both suddenly less safe than the space between them. I don't mean... She looked down, laughing softly at herself. I'm not inviting myself into anything complicated. I know. I just don't want Christmas Eve to end at a door. That sentence went straight through me. I unlocked my apartment and pushed the door open. Then come in for 1 cup of coffee. She raised an eyebrow. At midnight? I'm a freelancer. Time is theoretical. Do you have real coffee or the kind that tastes like a printer cartridge? I have real coffee. And plates? 2. A romantic abundance. She stepped inside. My apartment looked exactly like I'd left it. Laptop open, sad microwave dinner cooling on the counter, drugstore tree blinking crookedly with paper clips hanging from its branches. Amelia stopped in front of it. Oh, Jonah. I know, it's tragic. No. She touched one of the paper clips gently. It's sweet. That is not the review I expected. It's trying. She glanced back at me. I like things that try. I busied myself with coffee because looking at her in my apartment, in my coat, beside my ridiculous tree, was doing dangerous things to my composure. She wandered to the counter and inspected the abandoned frozen dinner. This, she said, was nearly your Christmas Eve? That turkey died so I could meet your family. That turkey died before packaging. Show some respect. She laughed, and the sound filled my apartment like it had been missing from the walls. When the coffee was ready, we sat on my couch, close but not touching at first. The city hummed outside. Snow blurred the windows. Downstairs, the Christmas music had finally stopped, leaving a soft silence. Amelia held her mug in both hands. Can I ask you something? Apparently, you can also abduct me to family functions, so yes. Why didn't you tell your sister you were alone tonight? I looked at the little tree. I didn't want her to feel guilty. Would she? Probably. Would that be so terrible? I rubbed my thumb along the warm ceramic mug. I guess I got used to needing less, or pretending to. If you never ask, no one can forget to answer. Amelia was quiet for a moment, then she said, That's lonely math. I looked at her. My kind of math, I admitted. She set her mug down and turned toward me, tucking one leg beneath her. For what it's worth, I'm glad you answered the door. I almost didn't. I know. You know. You have the hesitation face. I'm afraid to ask. It's different from raccoon face, more haunted accountant. I laughed and she smiled, but her eyes stayed tender. I'm glad you knocked, I said, even with the boyfriend ambush. I did not ambush you. You revealed critical boyfriend information in a moving vehicle. Strategic timing. Cowardice. Fine. She leaned closer. A little cowardice. Her shoulder brushed mine. Neither of us moved away. What happens now? She asked. The question was soft, but it carried everything. The kiss, the family, the fake story that had somehow become the truest thing in the room. Now, I said, we have pancakes tomorrow. And after pancakes, we see if you still like me when I'm not performing boyfriend duties for an audience. I already do. My chest tightened. Amelia looked startled by her own honesty, but she didn't take it back. I like you when you're drying plates, she said. And when you're making bad jokes in cabs. And when you're pretending not to be kind because you think it gives you cover. I set my mug down carefully. That's a dangerous list. I know. I like you when you're bossy in hallways, I said, and when you name dying ferns, and when you kiss me like you mean to ruin my plans. Her eyes dropped to my mouth. Were your plans any good? She whispered. Terrible. Then I'm doing you a favor. This time when we kissed, there was no audience and no mistletoe. Just the two of us on my old couch, the Christmas tree blinking crooked light over her cheek, her hand sliding into my hair like she'd wanted to do it for longer than tonight. I kissed her slowly, learning the difference between wanting someone and being chosen back. When she pulled away, she rested her forehead against mine. Merry Christmas, Jonah. I closed my eyes. For the first time in 2 years, Christmas Eve didn't feel like an empty room. Merry Christmas, Amelia. She fell asleep on my couch an hour later, her feet tucked beneath a blanket, my coat folded over the chair, one hand still loosely holding mine. At 8 the next morning, my phone buzzed. My sister's name lit the screen. For a second, old habits rose in me. Let it ring, text later, keep it simple. Then Amelia stirred beside me and squeezed my fingers without opening her eyes. So I answered. My sister cried when I told her I'd missed her. I cried too, quietly, facing the window, while Amelia pretended not to notice and very obviously noticed. We talked for 43 minutes. We made plans for spring. Real ones. Afterward, Amelia and I went to the diner on Ashland. She ordered pancakes for dinner even though it was breakfast, just to prove a point. I ordered fries on the side just to give her something to steal. She did. I let her. By the following spring, Fernanda the fern had 4 leaves, which Amelia called a personal triumph. We stopped pretending we were only neighbors. Her family stopped pretending they hadn't known before we did. My sister visited in April with the twins, and Amelia taught them a song on the recorder that made me briefly reconsider love. 6 months after that Christmas Eve, I found a small box of ornaments outside my door. Inside were tiny silver picture frames. One held a photo of Amelia and me at her parents' house, laughing over flan. One held a picture of my mother I'd shown her only once. One was empty. A note sat on top in Amelia's handwriting. For the tree we're still decorating. I stood there in the hallway staring at that empty frame and knew exactly what I wanted to put in it. Not a perfect future, not a promise we couldn't feel the weight of yet. Just the next picture, the next morning, the next dinner, the next Christmas Eve where no one had to knock because the door was already open. A year after that night, our apartment doors were both propped wide while we carried boxes from 4A into 4B and from 4B into 4A, making one messy, impossible home across the hall from where it all began. Raphael arrived with tools. Marisol brought food. Lucia brought mistletoe and claimed it was for structural support. Amelia hung the paperclip ornament at the very top of our real tree. It deserves honor, she said. It was born from desperation. So were we a little. I wrapped my arms around her from behind. She leaned back into me, warm and laughing, while snow started falling beyond the window. The microwave dinner was long gone. The lonely quiet was gone too. In its place was music from the kitchen, family voices in the hall, a half-dead fern standing proudly by the elevator, and Amelia's hand over mine as we placed one more ornament on the tree we were still decorating. What would you have done if you were alone on Christmas Eve and your neighbor knocked on your door saying, "Get your coat, you're coming"? Have you ever had someone show up for you when you needed it most? Tell me your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.